When I started riding motorcycles, I was really nervous. I didn't lean into turns like my friends and was scared to go faster. Most people think riding more builds confidence, but that's not entirely true. After 6 years of riding, I found a faster way to build confidence. And in this video, I'm gonna show you the 4 steps that helped me. The last one you can even do today. Before I get into the first point, I just want to make one thing clear. There are usually two kinds of riders. Either you're the type who's always on time with every maintenance task, engine oil, brake pads, tire pressure, everything logged, scheduled and done. Or you're more like me and sometimes you just don't find the time, or you'd rather go for a ride than do the work right now or try to find a workshop. Unfortunately, I'm definitely the second type. But here's the thing. The first time I really felt a boost in my confidence on the bike was when I properly serviced it. And when I say properly, I mean everything that needed to be done had actually been done at some point. So I did everything. I changed the engine oil, I replaced the brake fluid, got new tires, checked my chain, cleaned the air filters, the basics. Why does that matter? Well, if you're someone who's always on top of these things, maybe this won't hit you as hard. But riding a bike that isn't well maintained, it holds you back. At least that's how it was for me. When I wasn't sure if the oil was still good or the brakes bite like they should, there was always this little sense of doubt and a little voice in the back of my head saying, something might be off. And that doubt gets in the way of confidence. You're less focused, less relaxed, and honestly a little stiff on the bike. But once I knew everything was in check, I could ride with more freedom. No second guessing, just being in the moment. And some of these things make an immediate physical difference. Take tires, for example. I'm sure you've noticed this yourself. New tires just feel so much better. The grip comes back, the bike feels more planted, especially when leaning into corners. But here's something a lot of people don't realize. Even if your tires still have tread, they can be too old to be safe. Tire rubber hardens over time, especially when the bike is parked outside or exposed to temperature changes, and this can reduce the grip significantly. So how can you check the age of your tires? Look for the DOT code on the sidewall. It's a 4-digit number. For example, 3819 means the tire was made in the 38th week of 2019. As a general rule, if your tires are more than 5 years old, you should seriously consider replacing them, even if they still look fine. The same goes for brake fluid, another small thing that makes a huge difference. Brake fluid absorbs moisture over time, especially when you ride in changing weather or store your bike outside. That moisture lowers the boiling point of the brake fluid, which means that under heavy braking, like on long downhill stretches, your brakes can start to feel spongy or lose power. You should replace your brake fluid at least every 2 years or sooner if you ride often or push your brakes hard. If you're not sure how old yours is, it can be tested with a simple tool. Or you can also check its color. Fresh brake fluid is clear or light yellow, but if it's dark brown or murky, it's probably time for a change. Tip number 2. Do a cornering course or even a track day, depending on your experience level. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Why would I pay for a training if I can also just watch tutorials online? And now, don't get me wrong, online content is great, but a coach or instructor can do one thing that no video can. They can look at you, spot your mistakes, and give you personalized feedback. You're in a controlled, safe environment. No traffic, no gravel, no pressure. You can focus purely on your riding. When I did my first cornering course, I was actually surprised by how big the improvement was. One of the first exercises was to ride in big circles. And with every lap, I got more comfortable leaning the bike over. The instructor gave us practical tips: where to look, how to move our upper body, how to avoid steering too much with our arms or freezing mid-corner. The best thing was, he taught us the best cornering technique depending on our type of motorcycle. The advice he gave us was personalized. No video could ever teach you this. And that's me saying this. I want you to watch my videos. And if you didn't know this, even small adjustments to your head position or where you look through the turn can have a huge impact on your line and stability. By the end of the day, everyone in the group had noticeably improved their lean angle and their confidence. Let's move on to point number 3. Another thing that seriously helped me build confidence was this: following a skilled, experienced rider. I don't mean someone who's just fast. I'm talking about someone who has technique. Someone who looks smooth, stable, and can flow through corners effortlessly. Sometimes fast riders rely more on bravery than good habits. But the skilled ones, they make it almost look too easy. Try to ride behind someone like that. Someone you can trust. And focus on how they approach corners. Watch where they position themselves, when they start braking, and how they lean in. That alone taught me so much, especially about corner entry, braking points, and how to choose my line. And here's the key insight. When you see someone take a corner at a certain speed and you're right behind them, you suddenly realize, oh, I can do this too. It's not about pushing yourself recklessly. It's about learning through reference points. What's possible, what's safe, and how it should feel when you do it right. If you're unsure what good riding technique actually looks like, I really recommend watching some coaching content or rider analysis on YouTube. Channels that break down rider body position, throttle control, trail braking, all of that. Because once you understand what to look for, it becomes a lot easier to learn just by watching. And now we're coming to the last thing. I bet the other points have already been on your mind, right? But I think the last one is something you haven't thought about. Buy yourself proper, high-quality motorcycle gear. I was riding for about 5 years in fairly cheap textile gear. Of course, I had most of the protectors. Back, shoulders, elbows, knees, but the gear never really fit properly. Which, let's be honest, 99% of textile gear doesn't, especially not for women. And I knew the materials weren't exactly premium. The first problem was what I just said. The materials were cheap. But the real problem was, I knew they were cheap. And because of that, I also knew if I ever had a serious crash, the gear might just not hold up. So I always had a little fear when I was riding, and I just didn't feel safe. Not really. And if you don't feel safe, you also can't ride confidently. That's why I started looking for proper leather gear. I might make a whole video about the search because it took me that long. I tried on maybe more than 30 suits, or better said, all suits for women in all motorcycle stores I went to, which were maybe 3 or something like that. And I've also tried suits for men, but none of them ever really fit. Until I found the one suit that finally fits. And that changed a lot. The materials actually felt thicker, stronger, like real protection. And the way it fit gave me a different kind of confidence on the bike. I wasn't thinking, will this even help me if I crash? I was thinking, this will do its job. Apart from that, I decided to add a hip protector. Most motorcycle gear don't include one by default, and crash statistics show that hip injuries are quite common. And the funny, or actually it's sad or lucky, I don't know. The sad, funny thing is that I had to experience it myself 3 days later after I ordered it. So I bought this hip protector here, went to the racetrack, and then had a crash. And really, I landed on my left hip and nothing happened. I had no injury, no hurt, I didn't have any pain, and it fell directly on this protector. I would just recommend to you, get a hip protector if you don't have one. So here are a few things I've learned that can help when you're buying safer gear. First, make sure it has certified impact protectors. especially CE level 2 for the back and elbows. Second, check the fit. This gear might feel more comfortable at first, but if the protectors can move around easily, they might not protect you in the right place. And third, look at the outer material. You want abrasion-resistant fabric, or better yet leather or something with a high DD rating like 600D or higher for textiles. Now, leather has a big advantage. It offers the best abrasion protection, by far. If you slide on the road, leather will hold up longer than almost any textile. But that doesn't mean leather is for everyone. It's hotter in summer, less waterproof, and finding a suit that fits well, especially if your body doesn't match the standard shape, can be a serious pain. But that doesn't mean leather is for everyone. It's hotter in the summer, less waterproof, and especially if your body doesn't match the standard shape, it's a real pain. Don't feel like leather is the only way to be safe. There's really good textile gear out there too. You just have to make sure it fits well and uses high quality materials and protectors. But before you buy something new, if you consider riding on the racetrack, you might want to look for leather gear. Because on most tracks, leather is required. At the end of the day, the most important thing is that you feel safe in your gear. Because when you feel safe, you will ride more confidently. And this confidence changes everything.